Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Kirsten here, and thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and hang out here with me. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. That way you get a notification every time that I share a new video. And if you're listening to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave me a 5-star rating and review if you enjoy this podcast. And of course, always share with your friends and family. And if you leave a high rating and a review, that will actually help more people to find this podcast as well. So thank you already for doing that. Today we're going to talk about urgency and how having lots of urgency in your life, in your everyday activities, is something that is making your chronic sensations worse. So on this podcast, we're talking about chronic symptoms and sensations that are produced by your brain so that you don't actually have any real physical injury or trauma anywhere in your body, like physical stuff, tissue damage, but the pain and the discomfort, whatever the sensation you have, comes from heightened nervous system and brain activity. So it's like your brain is misunderstanding what's going on. The brain is sending you a signal, whether it is pain or another discomfort, because it thinks that something is really wrong. And sometimes, if you are living your life in this constant state of urgency, is something that will trigger that. So today, I want to share with you something that I did recently that was really helpful. Of course, I had done it before too, but I had one incident again that I thought I'm going to share with you how to work with urgency if it comes up in you. And I feel like this topic is so important. And yesterday I also wrote a long email to my emailing list and I sent them because I felt like this is so important to share. I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only one who's dealing with this. And today I'm going to share this on the podcast too. And by the way, if you want to get my emails, you can get them when you sign up for my 14-day strong and sensitive course. The link to sign up is in the show notes and it's also in the YouTube comments. And when you sign up for this free course, it's 100% free, then you will automatically be added to my emailing list as well. And you get all the tips and tools and insights about chronic pain or chronic symptom recovery. Okay, so let's come back to urgency. And I want to talk about why this is keeping your brain on such high alert. And not only the why, but also I want to give you some practical tips that you can use when you feel like I'm getting this sense of urgency and I feel like there's a million things that I have to get done and just feel like you're not able to calm down or settle down. So one thing, of course, where urgency is harmful is when we talk about the time of recovery. Like a lot of people are thinking, when is it going to happen? They may compare their recovery pace with somebody else's and they're like, oh, mine is not happening fast enough, or how many more months or years is this going to take? So this is this one type of urgency that you don't want to really have when you are on this TMS recovery journey, because everybody's super different. I've heard instant recoveries where somebody reads Sarno's book and they're just boom, they're recovered. For example, they could read Healing Back Pain or Mind Body Prescription by Dr. Sarno, or there's of course Alan Gordon's book The Way Out. Sometimes people read it and they have instant recovery, and then there are other people who need 2 or 3 years after they learn what this is, they get to work using these tools, TMS tools, and it can take them literally years. So please don't compare, how quickly your recovery happens. But yeah, so let's stop having this type of urgency. But the other type of urgency that I want to talk about today is the urgency in your everyday life, right? How do you live your day-to-day life, and what to do when you feel like everything is so critical and has to be done right now? What can you do then to calm your system down? Because like I said, this can be a trigger for your brain and a message to your brain that something is wrong. So if you're listening to this and if you have TMS, then there's a pretty good chance that you're a person who is constantly in action, right? Am I right? You are always fixing something and you are solving problems and you are running from one place to another. You're always planning something, but you never pay attention to how you are being while you're doing all these things. I'm pretty sure you haven't thought about it. But when you think about it, are you calm, peaceful, settled? Or are you on high alert, super overstimulated, super rushed? And I know it's the second one. I know because this is not unfamiliar to myself at all. So uh, all you probably are thinking about is like, I need to get this to-do list shorter, and I need to do this and that and the third thing because the time is ticking and it's almost the end of the day and I have to get to the next thing and so on and so on. But this type of pressure, like you really put a lot of pressure on yourself, it creates a lot of tension in your brain and in your nervous system. And it creates this feeling like something is always on fire. And that's why your brain and nervous system are sending you these sensations of pain or another symptom. But in reality, nothing is in fire. It's just like the way you act, right? You're acting as if there is. And like I said, I'm super familiar with this sense of urgency too. It's like there's a million things popping into my head, and all of them seem so very important. And of course, then they have to get done right now. It's this very intense, very like pressure feeling. And even though I'm doing a lot better than I did before, occasionally I still get caught in these old habits and behaviors and patterns of like, oh, I feel really rushed. But I want to share with you how I deal with it and what I did also just the other day when I felt this intense sense of urgency coming on. So I started having this sensation, like I said, million thoughts and feeling like everything has to get done right now. I forced myself to pause, and I think this is really critical here. You have to pause because if you don't, then you can't work with it. If you just keep rushing, how are you expecting a different outcome? So I forced myself to pause and I made myself write down all the things that were on my mind and that felt so urgent and so critical and like they have to get done right now, right this minute. So I'm going to read you the list of things that just ran through my mind. So the first one was this: I have to text this friend and tell him thank you for helping me out last week. Okay. Then I thought, oh, I really have to order salt on Amazon. We're kind of running low on salt. I have to order it right now. Right now. It has to be done right now. Then the next thing, oh, I have to create this new client's nutrition plan. Although I don't talk to her like, I don't know, until the next 3 days or something like that. In my mind, it was like, I have to do this right now. Get on it. You have to do it right now. Another thing, I got this idea for this really cool Instagram post, and I was like, I have to go write it now. I have to because this feels really good, and I'm really passionate about it. I want to help more people, and let me do this right now. And let me tell you, writing an Instagram post is it's not a 5 minute thing. It takes sometimes it can take an hour. It really, if you're not creating content like that yourself, maybe this is not that but it can be an hour, it can be more, especially when you work in a graphics and you put a lot of thought behind it. It takes a lot of time. But I felt I have to do this right now, okay? Then the other thing was like, oh, where did my travel credits go? Because I know I had travel credits with this airline and I don't see them right now. Oh my God, where did it go? I have to call the airline. I have to fix this. Okay. Another thing, I need to send this email to this person. Although there's still a week until she needed that information from me, I felt like I have to do it right now. Then the next thing was like, oh, I didn't take the shrimp out. I wanted to make shrimp for dinner. Oh my God, it's still in the freezer. Gotta take that out. The next thing, I wonder if this person is mad at me. Did I do something wrong? Oh my God, should I check with him? The other thing, I should really text and tell my sister about this really crazy thing that just happened. Oh my God, she's not gonna believe it. I have to do it now. And then one more thing, I wonder what track and field events are at the Olympics schedule for August 9th, because I need to know this now, even though it's not August yet. I have to know what's on August 9th. Right? So I just wrote these things down like quickly, like everything was just like big brain vomit. I just like wrote it down on a piece of paper. And I want to ask you now, can you resonate with this roller coaster of thoughts? Obviously, your thoughts are going to be different. But can you resonate with this idea? Like, there's so many thoughts and feelings, and everything feels like so urgent and has to be taken care of now. But the problem here is that not everything can be a priority. Not everything can and will get done all at once, right? And something has to get done later, or maybe it's not going to get done at all. It has to be fine because it's just not possible that we do all of these things. We put so much pressure on ourselves. So what do I do when something like this happens? Is like I said, I first hit the pause button and then just reflect what is going on. Well, I wrote the things down, and I realized that almost nothing was so urgent, and my body still had this like high adrenaline state, and I still kind of wanted to jump up and start writing this Instagram post, but I actually made myself to not do it. I resisted the urge of doing it, and instead I made myself to just lay down and breathe and be with the discomfort of not rushing to write and not do any of these other things right now. And why? Because I had to put myself in this situation where I'm really uncomfortable, right? Don't do it right now, because like I know that when I keep doing this, when I do all these things and check all these things off, by the end of the day, I'm in the same hyper, um, what's the right word, like elevated and overstimulated feeling, and my body really starts to tense up on me. It's just how it happens. So that's why I have to take frequent breaks, and that's why I have to rest when my brain is like, no, everything is urgent. I just have to like almost like, I don't want to use the word like fight back, because it's not about fighting, it's more like surrendering, right? And surrender and just be with this discomfort. And I had to just learn to tolerate the feeling that I'm not going to do everything right now or nothing for a moment, and just breathe. And it really helped me, and has helped me before too. But this time it took me about 15 minutes before I was like totally calm. I could think more clearly. And when I started thinking about that list again that had seemed so urgent before, it actually made me laugh, because I realized that like most of these things were not that important at all. So for example, I definitely didn't need to order that salt on Amazon right that minute. Or it wouldn't even make sense to text my sister and tell her what happened, what the cool crazy thing was that happened, because it's night over there. I'm in the US, she's in Europe, she's probably asleep, so she's not going to read it for another like 6-7 hours. So what's the rush? Or like I said, the Olympic Games, yes, I'm very passionate about it, especially the track and field part, but it wasn't even August yet, and I was already worried about like what's happening in mid-August, what's on the schedule then, am I going to see it? So I picked two things from that original urgent list that I had thought is so urgent. I picked two things that were actually important, and I completed them in the next few hours, and I just let the rest be. And I was like super chill and peaceful and calm about it, because I had taken that pause and let myself feel the things and kind of help the whole system calm down and settle down. And like I stepped out of this like cycle that's like keep going more, push more, right? Because that's gonna not gonna help you heal, recover. It's gonna not gonna make you feel at peace. It's only gonna fuel that fire that your brain is thinking that is going on. So I want to outline the steps that I recommend that you do too when you feel like every single one of these 7 million things that are running through your mind right now are so critically important. Well, the first one, like I said, is pause. You can't do the other steps if you don't pause. The second thing is take out your journal or write on a computer, however you like to write, and have a few what I call worry pages. Write down all the things that feel so critical and so worrying and so concerning right now. Write them all down, right? And then take some time off, sit down or lay down and take some deep breaths and notice what comes up. So pay really attention to that. What comes up when I get myself to this more calm and settled state? It is anxiety, right? It is anxiety. But is there anything under that too? Is there another feeling or something that you're feeling bad about? And a lot of times there's shame, right? What is the shame about? Well, you're feeling like you have to do everything. You put so much pressure on yourself because essentially you feel like you're not good enough if you don't do all these things. You feel like you're not perfect enough, you are not being enough, you're not doing enough. And if you agree with this, then you keep rushing around, right? So in a way, if you pause and stop and you're going to be like, no, I'm not going to do all these things. In a way, it's like middle finger to shame, right? It's like, I'm not going to do it. I don't have to do this right now. This is not critical. It's just the voice of shame that's telling you that you have to. But in reality, yes, of course, you may have like some things on that list that really are maybe critical, but it can't be that 12 things are critical. It just can't be. And you have to make a choice somewhere. What really is and what isn't. So then be with this feeling. It's uncomfortable. And resist the urge to go and start fixing things and solving problems and doing the things, right? really resist it. It really takes getting uncomfortable, be with this discomfort that arises in the body. I know it does. It does. It comes up somehow physically. And you may not be aware of it at first, or maybe you're like, the first minute, you're like, I don't feel anything. I was like that too at first. I didn't feel anything. But if you sit a little bit longer and you fully relax into, like fully relax, like let everything go, then you start feeling stuff kind of like popping up a little bit. You may feel something in your stomach or something in your chest or whatever. And it's uncomfortable. So feel it, be with it. You know, first thing you have to be with is the discomfort of not doing the things that your brain thinks you have to, have to, have to. And the other thing is being with the discomfort of the feeling that comes up. And then the anxiety and urgency, they start to fade away after a little while. They do. But don't cut it short. Don't like, okay, done. Don't do it like this. Like really let yourself like feel through the whole thing, have the full experience. You feel like your body starts to relax, your mind will become more clear, and you feel more free and balanced again. And then maybe you're up to it. You can, if you're up to it, you can listen to some calming music, maybe some rain sounds or ocean waves or whatever you like. I did a meditation after that and I felt a lot better. And then you can look at those worry pages again and see what are the really important things, like one or two maybe that I really want to focus on. And what can I do maybe some other day or later, or if there's anything that don't have to get done at all, you know, could be totally that they don't have to be done at all, or somebody else could do it. You could ask help and ask somebody else to do it. That's an option too. So hit that pause button when you get this sense of urgency and panic and get introspective. You have to slow down. You have to ask, what is this thing really about? Am I trying to prove myself to somebody? Why do I think that all these things are important and so, God, like so critical? And, you know, if you don't want to take that pause because you might think, oh, it's just a waste of time to sit with it and nothing on the to-do list gets done when I'm just sitting here with my feelings, that's such a waste of time. And I used to think that as well. But when I saw that, it doesn't get me better at all, right? Yes, I check the things off on the list, but new things show up on the list because I just keep putting them there. And then my symptoms and sensations are still strong. Nothing is changing. Like I know a lot of things about, like in theory about TMS. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with me, and I already know this. But I thought that I can keep living the same, like busy, like anxiety-filled life. I just couldn't. I had to start doing something if I wanted to resolve my symptoms and start getting better. So that's why getting that pause, hitting that pause button is so important. Very hard to do, but it's also necessary. So if you don't want to stay where you are right now, if you have that pain and sensations and things going on, then yeah, I really recommend that you start checking. Am I living this urgency mindset all the time? I'm super anxiety filled all the time, and start kind of stepping out of that loop and choosing a different response and doing the steps that I talked about in today's episode. All right, this is all that I have for you today. Let me know how you like this episode, and also check out my other resources. I have the course Emotionally Fit, which is all about emotional healing from chronic sensation recovery, and of course Train to Build Starter, which is workout program designed for people who had TMS for a while or still have it, but they want to get back to exercises, some really safe movements. So check out these programs as well. Everything is linked in the show notes and in the YouTube description as well. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you again next time. Take care.